Well, good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. So it's actually Mike behind the mic. Actually, it's Mike behind the mics, plural. People say, how come you have two microphones in front of you? Well, I have my official social media microphone, this one that you can hear right now, and then my official broadcast microphone that you can't hear because we're not broadcasting right now. But it's just easier. I'm sure there's a way to run one mic into both, but it's just a lot easier to set them up this way. This is the way I've been doing it. I had an extra microphone laying around the house, so one of these is actually SGW's and one of these is mine. So that's the way I've got it set up. That's the way it's been working. Good morning, Randy. How are you? Appreciate you joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic on a very what looks like it's going to be a warm Wednesday. Looks like some heat for the next few days. Hey, Craig, look at buddy. What have I got? My Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation mug that you gave me years ago. I use it every day. Hey, Brian, how are you? Nice to have you along with us. Mad Jack, always a pleasure, buddy. Good morning, Jim. Boy, they're coming in so fast, I can't keep up with you. Tim, Uncle Johnny, it was nice having dinner with you and your bride last night. Although you didn't have dinner, I did. We just had a beer. That was good. Brian Brain, Justin, Ed Bolanowski. Hey, buddy, how are you? Cliff, Bruce. Always a pleasure to have you along with us on Behind the Mic. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. Hey, Jen, Tim's better half. Jen, how are you? Miss having you guys down here, Jen. Although even when you were down here, we didn't get to see each other too much, but it was just comforting to know that you were in the area. Oh, what? I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio to record this week's show. I will tell you who's coming up on the show shortly. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the walleye whisperer, and the bear whisperer, Johnny Bowler, checking in live from Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where he is getting ready for the upcoming bear season. Johnny, I wish I was hunting with you this fall. I will be hunting with you next year. And how disappointing is it? You sent me a text that there are third season tags out there that people aren't even thinking about using. Jerry, kidney surgery this week. Ouch. Yes, ouch. Tim says the soft. All sides of Mike are the soft side, Tim. I'm just a big cuddly teddy bear. I'm just like a kitten that just purrs, curls up next to you and purrs. I'm just that kind of a guy. I'm just a soft guy. Damn it. Morning, Joel. How are you doing this morning? How you doing? How you doing on a hump day? I feel, Jonathan, like the air didn't get fixed yet. Jonathan and I will be down to our t-shirts, if not skivvies, by the end of the show here. I get it, Jen. I've seen pictures of the place. It's like a piece of heaven up there. Ryan's putting cameras up on Friday. Excellent. A kidney stone. No, thank you. That does not even sound any fun. I got to be honest, Brian. I can't even think about deer hunting right now. Can't even think about it. I mean, I have a little bit, but I just can't think about it. Spending too much time right now thinking about walleye. I'm still kind of consumed by walleye. I don't know if you saw the pictures posted yesterday. I was out there with a group called Outdoor Driven, a new group uh, organized to take vets and first responders on hunting and fishing adventures. And I was actually their first trip. Honored to do that. Sal, good morning. Sal said, good morning, Mike. And Mike, number one, and Mike, number two. I appreciate somebody with a sense of humor, Sal. Get my day off with a smile. Martin says the AQ tournament on Saturday was a good time. It was a good time. It was a nice event. More than 200 anglers, 39, maybe 40. Holy cow, 39, maybe 40 boats out there. And it was a lot of fun. No, Johnny, you shouldn't say that. Johnny, the bear whisperer, who cannot tell the difference between 75 and 35 yards. Every fish we caught, even if it was 13 inches, was a 20 incher. And the 20 inchers were 13 inches. Johnny cannot tell distance. Russell checking in from Nashville. How are you doing, Russell? Russell, Joel says the cicadas have been active. You know, I have yet to hear one, but where I'm living now, I don't have a bunch of mature trees right in the yard like we used to, so I don't hear them as much, but I'm hearing a lot of reports. Can you believe that this weekend coming up is the last weekend in July already? Who won the Angler Quest tournament? I can tell you, but since I didn't know him personally, I didn't really, but I got a text here from Brad. It was, Martin Roble. And isn't that Martin who was just on here right now? Martin Roble. Martin, this guy right here, Martin won the Angler Quest tournament. And Martin, I apologize, but I don't, like Scott Hand, who won it last year, is a good personal friend of mine, and I can put two and two together. You, Martin, I wasn't putting two and two together this morning. Don't mean to dish you, but congrats on winning that tournament. You had a beautiful basket of fish. And if I remember, you went out deep and ran crawlers. Yes? No? We did. Martin said we did. Morning, Corey. How are you? Appreciate your nice comments on my post from yesterday. Ken checking in from Linwood Beach. Ken, isn't it interesting that you were just talking to me about a fish with a transmitter at Linwood Beach? And I'm like, I've never heard of such a thing, never seen such a thing. And then yesterday we go out and we catch a fish with a transmitter. Crazy. And I'll be honest, I got some grief from people. Why did you keep Bill's up in Dubreuilville? Wawa. Sup, nature. Sup, right back at you, Andy. Hey, Brent. Good morning, buddy. Brent, I'd like to hook you up with a group called Outdoor Driven. I think you guys would get along well. So we had some pretty good fishing yesterday, and it was pretty busy for a while. We went through a couple of schools of very active fish with doubles and I think even triples and a lot going on. And actually, when we landed that fish that had the transmitter on it, I didn't personally get a good look at that fish. I think I was doing something else. And the guy said, "Hey, this thing's got a thing sticking out of the bottom of it." I said, "That's a tag. That's a transmitter." But I never looked at it real close. And so the question was, okay, well, what do we do with it now? And again, I hadn't looked at it yet. So I texted Randy Claremont, who is the director of the fisheries division, Department of the Michigan DNR. I know Randy because I've talked with him many times, and I've fished with him before. I had him out on Saginaw Bay this summer. And he says, throw that thing in the live well, call the number, which is Jason Gasto, who is the Bay City biologist, and go from there. So we did just that. And then, later on, I'm looking at this fish and I'm going, these stitches look pretty new, but by then we've committed to it. The guys are all excited. They get $100 for winning for finding the tag. By the way, that $100 was all donated or will be donated back to Outdoor Driven. The $100 we get from that tag will be donated back to Outdoor Driven. Let me check up on some comments here. Yeah, you send the tag and the transmitter back, John. Good morning, Ruben. How are things in Colorado? Jerry checking in from the Adirondacks. Randy says, welcome to the summer weather patterns finally. I could do without this summer weather pattern. Robert's in the Eastern UP. Good morning, Robert. How are you? So I talked to Jason and I said, hey, can you get me any information in time for the radio show tomorrow, which is today? And he says, yeah, I can get you some. He says, that fish was tagged May 13th. He didn't tell me where it was tagged, which is my big question. And I'm waiting for an answer on that. That fish was tagged. Oh, it was in an email. Sorry. The fish was tagged May 11th of this year, and it was released back into the bay 5.5 miles north of Seaboing. We caught that fish July 25th, about 5.5 miles north of Seaboing. So in hindsight, in retrospect, should we have thrown that fish back and let it gather more data? In hindsight, possibly, but I was going by the information that I had at the time, plus the director of the DNR fisheries department telling me to throw it in the live well because he had no idea when it was tagged. So as a result, we caught that fish about 2 months after it was tagged and it didn't go very far. So they didn't get much information from this fish, but still a very cool experience. It's got a lime green, it had a lime green plastic tag about 4 inches long. I know, Scott. Yeah, the guys at Linwood were telling me the same thing. Not just tagged fish, but a fish with a transmitter. A lime green tag that sticks out the bottom of the fish, and then there's supposed to be a transmitter inside of it too. But yeah, it's the second one. I mean, he was telling me about it Saturday at the Angler Quest tournament. I said, I've never heard of such a thing. And there we caught one. Also, did you see that hog of a fish we caught yesterday? I think you did, Scott. That's one of the nicest summertime Saginaw Bay walleye I've seen in a few years. It was only 25 and a half. I mean, it wasn't a 26 or 27 incher, but it had some shoulders on it. And it was a big, big, nice fish. So nice to see fish of that caliber in the inner bay this time of year still. I got to be honest, my super skinny water has slowed down. Although we took fish at the Angler Quest tournament, we never fished deeper than 7 feet of water. And we caught enough fish to weigh. I mean, we didn't do great, but we did, right in the middle of the pack. I have gone out a little bit deeper now. There's Mike right now. Never caught a transmitter fish, but most of the tag fish that I've caught over the years were tagged not long before being caught. Yeah, this was 2 months. I actually, it would have been a better story, and maybe I just should have lied and told a more interesting story, that the fish was tagged 4 years ago in Lake St. Clair and had been roaming the Great Lakes or the east side of the state for the last 4 years. But that's not the truth. The truth is it was tagged 2 months ago. I'm not quite sure where. I'm waiting for Jason to tell me that. But they released it 5.5 miles northwest of Sebring. We caught it about 5.5 miles northwest of Sebring. So like Ed says, if there's food there, there's no reason for those fish to move. Cody headed out to our mid-Michigan cabin this weekend. It's been hot up there, so I'll leave the trout alone and play some disc golf instead. Yeah, it's going to be hot too. Good morning, Tim. How are you? Mike was with us on our Angler Quest tournament adventure. We had a good time, Mike. I enjoyed fishing with you. It was a nice break for me, and you told me it was a nice break for you just to get out and have some fun and fish with people who are competent. Okay, let me check this. No need to several hundred deep. Can you tell me where it was tagged? Hey, Jason Gosto, the DNR biologist, when I asked him, I said, "Hey, I didn't realize how fresh the stitches were on this fish." I said, "Should we have let that fish go to gather more data?" Jason says, and keep in mind here, all these online Facebook experts who are telling me, Avery, you should have let that fish go. You're dealing with online Facebook experts, right? Oh. Okay, so I'm dealing with the fisheries chief for the Department of Natural Resources and the biologist for Saginaw Bay for the DNR. So those are my sources, okay? And I just got a text from Jason who said, no need to release those fish, Mike. We tagged several hundred. The primary objective is movement data, but harvested fish also help us investigate harvest rates. Let me send him a real quick text. I'm going to ask him if he can join me on the show. At 10:50 it would be. So I'll go back to, hey, Harry, how you doing, buddy? Let me go back. Have a vintage salmon spoon just found in a box called the Avery Assassin. I like that. Good morning, Kevin. How you doing? Walleye will travel a long way. We've had walleye that were tagged in the Tittabawassee River that were caught up in Thunder Bay and caught down in Lake St. Clair. Mike says, always a great day when I get a break from being the guy in charge of the boat. Amen to that, brother. Scott says, what's causing all the foam circles all over the bay? Asking Avery to ask his DNR experts. Good morning, Mitchell. How are you? It I just love the social media experts, in particular Facebook. You try to post something positive, and they're like, "Well, you should have let that fish go." Well, I'm sorry, but the real experts say, "Don't let the fish go. Harvest it and let us know." So anyway, Jason just said, "I thought this fish may have been tagged up in the Tittabawassee." He said, "No, this fish was tagged and released right back just about where we caught it." So, good story. Good story. And to be able to fish with those vets and get the quality of fish that we did, it was really cool. Really cool. I'm real impressed with that group, and I'm gonna do as much as I can to work with them in the future and get more vets out on the bay. At least, that is a goal I would like to, and I think they're open to that. So what else? Anyway, the Angler Quest Owners Tournament was wonderful. Like I said, 39 boats, more than 200 anglers. Martin Roble won the event. Scott Hand, last year's winner, came in with a very nice, respectable basket after talking a whole bunch of smack ahead of time. But he claims it was just to me. Well, that's my only frame of reference. What else? Tomorrow morning, I am fishing with my grandkids, two of my grandkids. And then Friday morning, I'm fishing with Art Lewis of WSGW, Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Miner, and Michael Hensley of Great Lakes Bay. And in both cases, Mike Smith, we will go right back to where I was yesterday. Because as you've told me, Mike, and I respect you as an angler, that unless something drastic happens, there's no reason for those fish to move. Well, nothing drastic has happened. Morning, Tommy. How are you? Morning, Corey. David, buddy, how are you doing? Mark, good morning. Mark, good morning. Data is data, and that was helpful to someone. Liked posting a pic of a small buck in June and having all the experts tell not to shoot it. Ross says, Mike, I'm ready to go fishing again. When can we go? I'm winding down, Ross. I mean, you're welcome to go fishing with me anytime. And by the way, sorry I didn't get to call you back last night. I'm on my mind a lot. I'm winding down. Although I'm winding down just because, I don't want to say I'm getting a little burnout because I don't have the right to, because I'm not a full-time captain and I'm not out there like the guys who are day after day after day. And if the fishery continues to produce the way it is right now, I would be a fool not to continue to chase those fish. Jim says he's lucky enough to fish with his grandson a lot. And actually, let me rephrase this. Usually in mid-August, I abandon Saginaw Bay walleye to go bear hunting in Canada. This year, since I'm not bear hunting in Canada in August, I went up there in the spring because of my daughter's wedding. I may just continue to work those fish over. Ed's going out to Thunder Bay tomorrow for some walleye. Ed, I got to get you and Craig down here. Gotta. You will be my last trip, guys. We got to get you in. Tim says, will you have weekend of the 5th? We're in Chicago picking up a wedding dress. Ross says, Tim says, will you have the same boat next year? I would love to. All right, Mike. Yeah, let's talk Friday, and I'll be out there tomorrow, like I said. I won't be out there for a full day, just a few hours. Salmon will be in the river soon, yeah. Going back to Tim's question, will you have the same boat next year? Tim, if I have my choice, I will run the same boat next year. I am very happy with that boat. It was worth the wait. Beautiful boat. The outboard is running perfect, although I do have to pull the boat and get the tubes power washed because we got a lot of crud on them. And I need to get the oil changed on the outboard. I got 100 hours on that outboard now from when it was last changed this spring. Actually, I got a little more than 100 on it. I would like to, Tim. And there is more to the answer of your question that I can't get into right now, but I will be able to in the near future. And I'll have to leave it at that. 30 seconds. I have not heard back from some key people, Jonathan. I always text people and say, can you join me? Can you join me? I have not heard back. In fact, I forgot that he was on the show. I'm out of time now, though. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. A new show opened this week that includes Offshore Tackle. It includes Rapid River Knives. It does not include the Forward Corporation. Things move on. Things progress. Things evolve.
And that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons.
Try keeping a boat for 3 years. Yeah, that's for sure. Scott, I suspect you know more than what I can talk about. But all right, my friends, I'll be back here tonight, 8 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. In the meantime, have a great day. Try to stay cool. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yep, it's a radio show, all right. My name is Mike Avery, also known as the Big Guy, and I am so glad to be back with you once again, sitting here in the studio for 3 hours to talk about the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. If you have been with me before, welcome back. I appreciate it. If you are a new listener, well, I really appreciate that. I hope you'll stick around. I hope you enjoy the conversations and that it'll become a part of your regular weekly routine. Can you believe this is the last weekend in July? You know, it's a cliche. Time flies, but it does fly. And the older I get, the faster time goes by. So you have to make the most of it, right? You have to take advantage of the opportunities you have to get outdoors in the woods and on the water. And I have been doing just that. In fact, this past week, I fished 4 out of 7 days. Okay, 4 out of 7 days. When you figure one of those days I'm in the studio, that takes it to 5. One of those days I have church, that takes it to 6. I have to get ready for the show and post-produce the show. That takes it to 7. Doesn't leave a lot of time for anything else. But I'm doing just what I talked about, taking advantage of the time of year that we have and the opportunities that are in front of you. And the fishing, it's been pretty good. You know, normally by this time of year on Saginaw Bay, where I fish, and people say, you talk too much about Saginaw Bay. And I get that, right? I get that. I accept that. I embrace that. And you are absolutely right. I talk more about Saginaw Bay walleye than any other fishery in the state. And that's not a compliment. That is a criticism, and it is a valid criticism. But here's why. When I talk about things that I do, it has to be from my reference point, my frame of reference, from my experience. If I'd been fishing kings over on Lake Michigan, I would talk more about that, but I haven't been. Also, I line up guests on the show each week when I put together the rundown for the show. It is my goal to take a look at a map in my mind, a mental map of the state of Michigan, and try to be as geographically diverse as possible and topic and subject diverse as possible. That's not always easy. It's not always the case. Say the shows in early November are going to be primarily talking about deer hunting. As I look at the rundown for this week's show, it's pretty much fishing, but that's seasonally dictated. But I have been out on Saginaw Bay, including, this was a lot of fun. The second annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament out of Linwood Beach Marina last Saturday. Mother Nature actually cooperated. We had more than 200 anglers. We had 39 boats. For a second-year event, it was wonderful. It was huge. Martin Roble and crew won that tournament, family, if I remember right. And a lot of those guys, every time, I'm kind of the MC of the event. Not kind of, I'm the MC of the event. And when they come up the way they're fishing, I ask them where they fished. Now, some people look at me and they're telling me a blatant lie because they're telling me with a smile on their face. I get it. But most of those people headed out of Linwood Beach and they went north or northeast, up into that deeper water, maybe a little bit cooler water. My beloved Skinny water is up to about 80 degrees now. So a lot of the fish are out of there, although we have picked up a few in there. I've had to go deeper out to 13, 14 feet of water, been getting some pretty nice fish. Yesterday, I was out there with a group called Outdoor Driven. It's a new group. It's a nonprofit formed by a guy named Andrew Kumtis. Andrew is a vet himself. If I remember, he was a Marine sniper. And when he got back here, he had some challenges, like a lot of people do, and he turned to the outdoors, hunting and fishing, back to his roots to help him deal with things. And he said that he formed this organization to help first responders and vets heal. I don't think that's too strong of a word, through hunting and fishing adventures. Andrew and I had been talking for a while, and he was waiting to get his paperwork done and stuff. And he said, Mike, can you get some vets out on the bay fishing? I said, absolutely, I will. I try to do as much for vets as I can. And here's the reason. Here's the very painful reason why. I have, like everybody, right? Like most people, I've done some really dumb things in life and made some mistakes, but I have very few true regrets. One of my true regret is that I never served in the military. And to this day, I feel bad about that. I should have, but I didn't. While other young guys my age enlisted and took off for who knows where, I didn't. I went off to college, and I feel guilty about it. So, long story of saying why I try to volunteer for vets as much as I can. So on this particular day, we had Andrew, and a couple of vets, Russ and Brad, just great guys. And man, we had a wonderful day on the water. We got some nice fish, including a real tank of a fish, probably the second or third biggest fish we've had on the Angler Quest this summer. Real nice fish. So that was a great day to catch this fish. And as a bonus, we caught a fish with a transmitter, not a tag, not a tag in the upper jaw, a transmitter. Now, the weird thing about this is when I was at the Angler Quest tournament last weekend, one of the guys came up to me and said, hey, have you ever heard of a fish with a transmitter? I said, I've heard of it, but I've never seen one. And he showed me a picture of a fish they caught on Saginaw Bay earlier in the week with this lime green tag sticking out the bottom of the fish. And he said, that's a sign that there's a transmitter in that fish. I said, well, that's really cool. I've never heard of such a thing. Really neat. Congrats. That's, big deal. So as we're out there this past week with the guys from Outdoor Driven, we caught one of those fish. Now, I didn't get a good look at the fish at first because it was kind of chaotic at the back of the boat because we were into fish. But the guys are telling me, hey, this has got a tag on it. I'm looking at it. That's not a tag. That's a fish with a transmitter. It's got this 4-inch lime green piece of plastic sticking out of the bottom of the fish. So how cool is that? I'd never caught one before. I didn't know what to do with it. So since I know Randy Claremont, who is the fisheries chief for the DNR, I've taken Randy fishing before. I've known Randy for years. I texted him, said, we just caught this fish. What do we do with it? He said, throw it in a live well and call the number that's on there. That number goes to Jason Gasto, who is the the biologist for Saginaw Bay. So that's what we did. I later found out from Jason that fish had been caught May 23rd. No, May 13th, 5.5 miles northwest of Seaboing. We caught it July 25th, 5.5 miles northwest of Seaboing, roughly. Fish didn't go very far in those 2 months. So I posted a picture of this tag online. And of course, you're going to get some social media experts say, well, it's obvious that was a fresh insert of that tag. You should have just let that fish go so it could collect more data. And then I started to feel bad. I thought, you know what? Maybe we should have. Even though the fisheries chief of the DNR told me to take that fish and put it in the live well, I'm thinking, well, maybe we just should have let it go and collect more information. So as I'm sitting here in the studio this morning, I'm texting back and forth to Jason Gasto, who is the fisheries biologist for the DNR for Saginaw Bay. He said, nope. He said, we did several hundred of those. There was no reason to let that fish go. We obviously collect growth rates from those fish and movement patterns, but we also collect harvest data. So you were doing exactly what you should have done. So there, I feel a little bit better about that now, but a cool experience, a great experience. And tomorrow I'm taking 2 of the grandkids out there, and I'll tell you that story next week. I'm expecting another great day. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, Don Miller after the break talking about fishing muskies on Lake St. Clair. Then Andrew Comptis of Outdoor Driven talking about that organization, maybe how you can get involved. In hour number 2, Larry Jennings of Jonah Jigs talks about jigging for king salmon. How fun does that sound? You catch a fish while trolling, a big king while trolling, and it's a handful. Imagine having the rod in your hand and jigging one up. How cool would that be? Then Adam Bump from the DNR. This week's Ask Avery segment, we'll talk more about that tagged fish. And in hour number 3, Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing. Lance is going to be on the water, but he made a post earlier in the week that I have to follow up on. He made a post of a shot of his electronics that created so much attention and so many questions. I thought I got to get him on to follow up with that. And then Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Miner. So it's a good show. I think it's a good show. Some great guests. A fishing-related theme show this week. But it is that time of year. My name is Mike Avery. The show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. Love to hear from you. Lots of good stuff coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. All right, my friends. Yeah, I saw the 21st. You caught yours, Ken, the 21st. How cool is that? All right, I got to let you go, my friends. Have a good day. Stay cool. I'll see you tonight, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.